There's a way to make an entrance.
This is my destiny.
It was now a conspiracy of witches.
Download Veely today.
This is Cothway Manor. Hidden away in deepest Somerset, it's one of the finest medieval country houses in England. 15 years ago, Mary-Anne and Alastair Robb bought it as an empty shell. Since then, they've spent all their time and money restoring Cothway. But now it's hemorrhaging cash, causing rifts in the family, and they're running out of time. Can businesswoman Ruth Watson save this national treasure and help secure Cothway's future?
Ruth, this is a garden. We're not that stupid.
But you're not making very much money.
Mary-Anne! All right, I'm going, Ruth.
I think this is a poisoned chalice, this house.
We would like to die here.
Cothway Manor is a Grade 1 listed medieval house in Somerset. Home to Alastair and Mary-Anne Robb since 1993. The couple have spent 15 years working tirelessly to restore the house and its 12 acres of gardens.
There was absolutely nothing here whatsoever. Even the cord that holds the light bulbs had been cut off, so it was completely empty and soulless.
Cothway is now worth £3.5 million, but restoring it has taken almost every penny they have. It's become their life's work. It means the world to them.
Underneath this stone is where I would like to have my heart. I've asked the butcher. He's going to cut out my heart, and I'm going to have a very, very beautiful box made for it.
They can only afford to keep their home by opening to the public. With just a skeleton staff to help, the Robbs do most of the work themselves, despite their advancing years.
Even when we're not open, you're preparing for the next season.
You never stop. There's always something.
But it's a way of life. And if you live above the shop, you're always stacking shelves.
Even with their best efforts, the business is failing. The house costs £40,000 a year to run, but the gardens only pull in 6,000 visitors. At £4.50 a head, it's at least £13,000 less than they need.
One day I'll just drop down dead in the border. I'll run out of puff and that'll be that.
Aged 68 and 78 respectively, Mary-Anne and Alastair have to start making money soon, or they run the risk of seeing their life's work crumble around them. They've called on Ruth Watson to help.
Most British country houses have survived war, economic hardship, and the passage of time, but right now they're under very real threat. Many are crumbling piles, their owners crippled by debt, and I am determined to do anything I can to help save them.
Entrepreneur Ruth runs an award-winning hotel and restaurant empire in Suffolk. She's turned numerous crumbling historic homes into business success stories, including Hintlesham Hall, which she bought for £400,000 and sold for £9 million 6 years later. Today, Ruth is on her way to Somerset to meet Mary-Anne and Alastair and to try to save Cothway from disaster.
I cannot visualise what she is going to come up with, to be perfectly honest. But I'm sure she has some magic trick up her sleeve, because I'm told that she does deliver the goods.
Hello, hi.
Very nice to meet you.
You're
I'm
Alastair?
Alastair Robb.
How do you do?
This is Mary-Anne,
How do
my
you do?
wife.
And what a fantastic bell.
Marvellous, isn't it?
And this beautiful cloistered garden.
I'm glad you like the bell, because it says Pax Huic Domui, peace be to this house.
Over the next few days, Ruth will formulate a plan to safeguard Cothway's future. She starts with an investigative tour.
The Great Hall.
Now, this is the most fantastic roof.
Isn't it wonderful?
Love those beams.
They were built like that to impress. It's not,
Well, they
it's
do
not
impress.
necessary to have such vast, great amounts of wood to hold up the ceiling.
Cothway looks as though it has remained unchanged for centuries because the Robbs have worked tirelessly to create precisely this effect. They've furnished the house with appropriate antiques, and Mary-Anne has upholstered every cushion and made every curtain herself.
So this is your little snug place, yes?
This is our cosy.
So we would read and watch the television
Yeah.
in here.
And go to sleep.
What is this dead animal? It's hideous. Why would you want that in here?
Because I like fur.
But it's got a face on it.
But once it's dead, it's dead.
Well, this is true, but I don't think you have to flaunt it.
But there's one feature of Cothway the Robbs haven't been able to restore. Throughout the house, there are 500-year-old wall paintings in a terrible state of disrepair.
More wall paintings. Fantastic. So this is the equivalent of the gold-plated taps in the jacuzzi. It was a status symbol.
Well, I hadn't thought of it that way.
What do they call it these days? Blitz or blotch or blit?
Bling.
No,
Bling, bling.
bling.
So is what's preventing the restoration of all these frescoes, wall paintings, is it a lack of expertise or is it a lack of money?
Lack of
Cash.
money.
And it's not hundreds of pounds. It would be thousands of pounds.
But with only 6,000 visitors to the gardens each year, cash is in short supply. Ruth sits down with Mary-Anne and Alastair to discuss the state of the business.
Do you know what the annual turnover is last year?
Yes, I do.
Can we say? It's only your turnover you're telling me, you're not telling me your profit.
I don't make a profit. I make a £15,000 loss.
Is that what you made in the last year?
Yeah.
A £15,000 loss? Okay. Have you ever made a profit?
I got very close to it, but not...
You're obviously extremely competent about many of the things that you do, but making money is not one of them.
Alastair and Mary-Anne have to change the way they run the business. But will the question of inheritance cast a shadow over Cothway's future?
Most of my children regard it as a millstone round their necks.
I don't want a family feud.
It's none of your business. You'll be jolly lucky to get anything.
Cothway Manor in Somerset is home to Alastair and Mary-Anne Robb. Built in 1485, 7 years before Columbus sailed to America, Cothway is one of the finest medieval country houses in England. There are 500-year-old wall paintings and over 30 rooms full of history. From the great chamber with its splendid oak beams and 14th century oculus window, to the oak-panelled dining room added in 1605. It's a family home unlike any other. But it's the garden that has proved to be Cothway's greatest asset. Apart from the existing yew hedges, the Robbs have created this magnificent 12-acre garden from scratch in just 15 years. It's now a romantic oasis that entirely complements their medieval manor house. But despite its great beauty, Cothway's future hangs in the balance.
Cothway is a unique medieval house with the most stunning architecture and fabulous interiors. And thanks to the relentless toil of its owners, Alastair and Mary-Anne Robb, it also has the most beautiful gardens. But without their kind of commitment, Cothway would soon lose the reason why it's so special. And I don't think it would be open to the public either. I'm determined to come up with a plan that makes Cothway financially viable so that we can all continue to enjoy it.
The Robbs have called on businesswoman Ruth Watson to help them stem their losses. But there's another problem. They have yet to resolve the question of inheritance. If Mary-Anne and Alastair don't hand over the house to one of their 4 children, at least 7 years before they die, whoever inherits could face a massive £1 million tax bill. But Mary-Anne and Alastair are not yet ready to sign Cothway over.
Alastair, you're 78 and...
Yeah.
I'm 10 years younger.
68.
Yes.
Do you feel at all that you perhaps should have thought about this a bit earlier? Who's
We've been
going to
thinking
inherit?
about it all the time. But it's a question of doing it.
Getting round to it.
That's
Getting
normally
around
the
to
problem
it.
with life.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it would be wonderful to pass something over to them. One always wants a little bit of history.
Or continuity.
And continuity. But even if we had passed it over 20 years ago, what would happen to us? It's our life.
Yeah.
We would like to die here.
Right. Now, the problem with you dying here is obviously little thorny things like inheritance tax, and you wouldn't
Yes.
want to burden your children with debts that they don't need.
But I don't think that you should live your lives entirely for your children. They must make their own way.
Despite wanting to retain control of Cothway, Alastair and Mary-Anne are keen for it to stay in the family. If it was sold, new owners could decide to close the gardens once and for all. But sons Jamie and Matthew have already turned the idea of inheriting Cothway down, and their eldest daughter, Arabella, has her hands full with her husband's 900-acre estate. Now the Robbs have offered it to Charlie, their youngest daughter, who is visiting from her home in Germany to talk things through. But Charlie's concerned. Her parents haven't told the rest of the family about their offer.
But I wouldn't want them to contest the will. I don't want a family feud.
But
I think it
nobody's
could
going
easily
to,
happen.
nobody's going to
You
have
know,
a family feud, Charlie.
And we haven't even told them that we're doing this.
No.
And you haven't even told them that you suggested this. And I just find that really, really difficult. I find it underhand.
No, I offered it to them and they
I know,
said
but
they
you
didn't
haven't
want
said
it.
that you've offered it to us.
You're worried that your siblings
But I'm-
are going to get upset if you get something and they don't.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think you do have to some extent, listen to her on that.
But I mean,
You know, if, for instance, if we had to sell Cothway for
Yes.
any reason, we had to sell Cothway, that would be that. And they'd say, right, hold on a second, where's our share?
I can't do anything about that.
No.
Neither of us can. If we leave it to you, we leave it to you.
Then it's our problem.
Well,
You'd be dead, you don't care.
actually, it's none of your business. You'll be jolly lucky, the others, to get anything. I wasn't too keen on Charlie's outburst. I feel Charlie's making rather a to-do about it. Huge amount of fuss about it, in fact. And if you're the lucky one, then you're the lucky one.
Finances are always a thorny subject, and in this instance we've also got the problem of inheritance and inheritance tax and family feuds that might be caused by who takes over this house. The problem also is that Mary-Anne and Alastair are not even making a profit, so why would you want to inherit a house that might cause a family feud and have a terrible tax burden and a loss-making business?
The next morning, Ruth heads out with Mary-Anne to see the gardens and discover how the operation is run. During the season, from May to September, the gardens at Cothway are open, attracting 6,000 visitors a year and bringing in £27,000.
There's one thing screaming at me about this garden this is not a low maintenance garden, is it?
No, I spend every day out here.
Every day.
At least 5 hours. I suppose over the years that I've come to regard the garden as my life's work.
There's a small tea shop in the summer house that only serves tea and scones. On the other side of the lawn, Mary-Anne sells plants from outside the greenhouse. It's far from a slick commercial enterprise.
What proportion of visitors will come and buy something to take away, do you think?
I would like to think that everybody bought a plant, but in practice that doesn't happen.
It is possible to avoid this area, though, isn't it? You could miss it.
Well, I suppose you could.
Mary-Anne Mary-Anne has worked for 15 years to create the garden at Cothway. Will she be prepared to learn some new tricks from Ruth?
There's absolutely no questioning Mary-Anne's prowess as a plantswoman and gardener. Fantastic, and I love her English eccentricity and that huge strength of character. But I think this might prove a sticking point, because what she doesn't understand is this garden has got to be more commercial, and it doesn't mean besmirching its integrity.
Clearly, the garden could be making more money. But could the Robbs be exploiting the manor as well? Ruth heads off to explore on her own.
I'm sorry, there is a dead animal on the floor here. Divine little room, this, but I find it very difficult to walk over this animal.
The Robbs occasionally allow small pre-booked groups to tour the house, but visitors to the garden are not allowed in.
I didn't get to see this with Mary-Anne. It's another amazing room. The other thing is so intriguing. There's so many entrances and exits and little staircases. It's a real labyrinth. Ah, back in the winter study. Do you know, the one thing that absolutely screams at me is this house should be looked at by more people. And it's all very well them doing the guided tours by appointment. I really want to see them bringing more people into this house. It's so eminently show-offable. It's wonderful.
Cothway currently attracts 6,000 visitors a year, but it could handle 3 times that number. Ruth decides to visit a successful garden nearby, with an annual turnover of £900,000.
I'm going off to Hestercombe, which is a very successful garden. It has tens of thousands of visitors a year. And I believe they do attractions and events. I need to find out what the secret is, because it's quite obvious that having a garden isn't enough. You've got to do something to get those people in.
Hestercombe is only 15 miles from Cothway, so she's keen to find out from Philip White, the chief executive, how they managed to attract so many more visitors.
Apart from the garden, what brings people to somewhere like Hestercombe?
They love to come for a good day out, and they like to have a nice walk, and then they like to have a cup of coffee or some homemade cake or a nice meal in the restaurants. And the food is actually very important.
I was going to say, so food, without food, do you think you'd be as busy?
No, I don't think you would, and people wouldn't stay for very long. That's the other thing.
I heard from somebody that locals will only go and visit a garden once or twice every 5-10 years because they think they know it. If there is some kind of food outlet, does that change that pattern of behaviour?
Oh yes, definitely. I mean, we have people coming on a regular basis. In fact, most of our friends of Hestercombe, we've got 6,000, visit on average 5 times a year.
Oh, really?
And the food is an important part of that.
Food and drink bring in high returns. At Hestercombe, they grossed £400,000 from this side of the business. And it can also help entice customers to purchase other products.
I notice you trap customers, don't you? If they're going to come and have a cup of coffee, they've got to come through the plant section. Do you think that's really important to drive people certain ways through a garden in order to maximise sales?
Well, I think you have to show people what you have on offer, because otherwise, if they avoid it, then obviously you lose a potential sale, but also they don't see the full extent of what you're offering.
Obviously, Hestercombe operates on a different scale, but the same principles apply. And there are lessons to be learned. After her investigation, it's time for Ruth to return to Cothway and report back on her findings. But will her suggestions fall on deaf ears?
Cothway, both the house and garden, are unequivocally beautiful, and I really admire what Alastair and Mary-Anne have done here. It took them an enormous amount of drive. The question is, have they got enough left to make the necessary changes? I have to congratulate you on a beautiful house and a fantastic garden. The problem is that it's not commercially successful. What I've learnt is that you absolutely have to give people a reason for coming here. It's got to be a day out, Because what happens is, especially with local people, they come once to the garden and they think they've seen it. They don't come for another 5 years. What I'm going to suggest is that you make a calendar of events, and that brings people in, because something is always different, something's changing. In May, it's Tulip Fortnight. In June, this is what's happening. You know, there's roses are out. And oh, look, they've got a jazz picnic every last Sunday in the month. And I truly, utterly believe that you can turn your annual figures into something so much better. I mean, you could quadruple them without any problem whatsoever.
Next up, Ruth wants the Robbs to make it easier for people to spend money. At most public gardens, visitors have to go through the plant section to get to the tea shop, which encourages sales at both. But at Cothway, these areas are quite separate.
Food is incredibly important. This comes up, look, you're raising your eyebrows. What I've discovered is that quite a lot of people actually come for the tea. They're having a day out. They come and have some tea or lunch or whatever it is, and then sort of think, oh, well, I might go around the garden as well. The other thing that really ties in with this, and I've heard it called, it's a wonderful expression, the sheep dip factor. Before people got their cup of tea, they were funneled through an area where they had to go through the plant sections, where they had to look and stop and think, oh, I'd like a bit of lavender or whatever. Because once you've got them here, you should not be letting them go until you've made the maximum amount of revenue from them. And that has got to be food, it's got to be plants, and I believe it's got to be the house as well.
As it stands, you can only tour the house if you have booked ahead as part of a group. But Ruth thinks they should make it more accessible.
The house is every bit as important as the gardens. You can double, triple the amount of people who come through this house, and that means double, triple the amount of money that you take. And I think it's such an easy way to make revenue. You've already got them here, you know?
Yeah. I think you're right.
Charlie, what do you think?
Personally, I wouldn't want it to be everyday work. I wouldn't want it to be like that, because I'd start resenting it, I think. Also, this is a family house, and family come to stay.
Well, Charlie, if you think that's important,
you
you're going to be in real trouble if you want to take this house on, because if you think that your life is going to be more important than having customers in, there's no way you're going to make an income out of this house and garden.
Finally, the tricky issue of inheritance and the problem of what will happen to Cothway after Mary-Anne and Alastair die.
Do you not think, Mary-Anne, there's something very contradictory between why should you give things out, why should you hand things on, children can fend for themselves, and yet you're also saying to me you want to leave it to Charlie, and you're also saying you want Cothway to exist without you. It's not a totally coherent argument.
Yes, I can see what you're getting at.
There's something kind of, if I'm being kind, I'd say careless, and if I'm being unkind, I'd say almost calculated, to make the most amount of trouble by not doing anything sooner than you have done. You know, you could stay here and just decay, and the gardens could decay around you when you got to a state where you couldn't be out there every day. Of course you could, nothing's stopping you, but the way it stands at the moment, there could be £1 million inheritance tax. I mean, there's so many ramifications of what can go wrong. And what I want to commend to you is, apart from taking legal advice, is I think you should have a family meeting. Have you thought about that?
No.
No.
I would agree. I would agree.
Because, Charlie, if I'm being, very honest, at the moment, I think this is a poison chalice, this house.
I think the family meeting would be a good idea. I think also it would be a good idea if Ruth were there, because things get rather hot under the collar, I think, if it's just family.
I just think it would cause a lot of aggro. But the whole thing seems to have stirred up a hornet's nest.
The Robbs have to rethink the way they run the business. But can Ruth get them to change the habits of a lifetime?
They've come to see a garden. They haven't come to have an experience gastronomique. We're not that stupid, Ruth.
No, but you're not making very much money.
Cothway Manor is in financial trouble, and Ruth Watson has been drafted in to help save the business.
It's another amazing room.
It's 2 months since Ruth's last visit, when she ruffled some feathers.
Ruth said she thought, to my amazement, that it was a poisoned chalice. How can anybody live in such a wonderful part of the world and think of it as a poisoned chalice? I think that is quite extraordinary.
It's May. The gardens are finally open for the season, and the Robbs have their hands full with visitors.
I enjoy being open to the public. I get terrible withdrawal symptoms in the winter. I miss the buzz.
The Robbs have already embraced one of Ruth's ideas.
And it all starts in 1309.
As well as the existing pre-booked tours, the Robbs are now opening the house to people visiting the garden. But Alastair is finding the extra work exhausting. Otherwise, very little has changed. They've done nothing to link the tea room with the plant sales area to increase revenue.
Ruth thought that we could triple our plant sales. She's obviously never tried to sell plants. The public are extremely fickle. We'll do a huge amount of what we sold last year, only to find next year that we're left with them at the end of the season, which is absolutely maddening. Then we have to have a sale. Ladies and gentlemen, do come and collect your coffee or your tea, or it'll get terribly cold. Ruth is slightly scathing about our tea rooms. Now, Ruth says that the most important thing in any enterprise is the food, but I don't actually agree with her. But I know food is becoming increasingly popular. So, you know, we do our best. This is not a hotel, it's a garden.
Mary-Anne is concerned that making Cothway more profitable might compromise her beautiful garden.
The garden is the gardener's dream. And when you look at National Trust houses, they have so often lost their soul. And they have much the same air. There's no spirit about them, no feel about them. Everybody who comes here says there's a lovely feel.
But the financial implications of Mary-Anne's idealism are clear to everyone who visits.
It could be a bit more commercial, but if it was, that would take some of the charm away, I would think. I'm sure they could make a lot more money if they had everything set out a bit more professionally, but maybe they don't want to do that. I don't know.
And perhaps that is the charm of it all.
It begs the question as to what the future holds for so many places, family-run places, for the long term. And whatever happens, one hopes that such places will remain part of our heritage, but it's an open question.
It's 2 months since Ruth's first visit, and she's back to convince the Robbs that Cothway can be made more profitable without losing its charms.
Nice to see you again.
Hello,
But Mary-Anne is still resistant. Making money doesn't seem to be part of the equation.
When the sun comes out, all the tables come out and people sit about here.
When we spoke last time, because I was trying to engage you with the idea of having what they call a sheep dip, which is where you make people have their tea, lavatories and buy plants in a very small area so that they can't escape. And this obviously is a very pretty area, but you could escape buying plants if you came here.
Ruth, this is a garden.
I know,
It isn't
but we
a
want
town.
to make some money.
Yes, we do, but we don't want to spoil it.
But if you take somewhere like Sissinghurst or one of the great gardens that you would perhaps
But that's
love.
National Trust, Ruth, and they've got millions and millions at their disposal.
Look, I am not advocating you spend money that you haven't got in areas that would be pointless. What I am saying is that once they're here, what you want is them to come back again, and the way you get people to return, it's by providing the service and the product that people want.
They don't come to a garden to go to the loo, as a friend of mine said.
Well, no, but they do come to gardens to go and have tea, that's for sure, and then they need the loo because they've had the tea.
But they've come to see a garden. They haven't come to go to the lavatory or have an experience gastronomique. We're not that stupid, Ruth.
No, but you're not making very much money.
When Ruth was last here, youngest daughter Charlie had been offered the chance to inherit Cothway. But she's since decided she's not ready to commit.
My biggest worry is that I don't have the energy or the knowledge that my parents have, and possibly even the character.
Ruth wants to find out from Alastair how this has affected their plans.
Do you think there's going to be resolution within the family ranks as to what the best thing to do is?
Everybody knows what's going to happen, or I didn't even know what's going to happen. I thought I knew what was going to happen,
right.
But now I don't. So,
The Robb's oldest daughter, Arabella, is visiting. So Ruth takes the opportunity to find out why it's so difficult to agree on a plan for Cothway's future.
Is there a real problem with you all sort of sitting down to discuss?
The thought of sitting down with all of us together, I think it would be like an atom bomb going off.
Really? Wouldn't it worry you the danger that nothing got resolved and everything that you had created here was dissipated?
I think you're right. I think it would be very sad. And I think it has to be resolved. How it's resolved, I don't know. Yes, it's got to go on. If it can possibly go on, it must go on. For everybody's sake, for everybody who's come here, for everybody who's loved it, for everybody who wants to see it in the future, it is a national treasure. And my parents have created this. Every single piece of upholstery in this house, she has upholstered. Every single pair of curtains in this house, she has made. This is what keeps them young. This place.
No, I mean, absolutely.
It's unbelievable what they do.
Yes.
It's terrifying.
Clearly, the whole family are passionate about Cothway. But nobody seems to have the solution to its future.
I can and I do admire Mary-Anne and Alastair's hard work and creativity. They have made something incredibly special at Cothway, there's no doubt about it. Unfortunately, the solution to Cothway, not only short-term in how they raise visitor numbers, and long-term in who's going to inherit it, cannot be approached in such an emotional manner. Because at the moment, everybody is just crossing their fingers and hoping, effectively, that Ma and Pa aren't going to die.
Time is of the essence. Ruth wants Mary-Anne and Alastair to face up to the future.
What bothers me is every single person that I've spoken to have said, this place is special, this place is magical, this has to remain, it has to flourish, it has to be beautiful, all these things. I still don't hear anybody saying how this is going to be carried out once you're gone or incapable for some reason of doing it.
We don't intend to go.
But you are going to die. I'm sorry. You're not exempt from death. You might like to be, but you're not.
You can't force people to take
die,
on.
I can.
You can't force people to take on what you've created. They'd said, we have our own lives, we do not want to spend every waking hour like you do working at it. They just don't want to, Ruth.
The issue of inheritance may be difficult to resolve at this moment. But if Cothway is going to have any kind of future, the business has to start making money now. 2 months ago, Ruth urged the Robbs to plan a calendar of events to encourage repeat visits. So far, they've failed to put her plan into action. So she wants to see if they can put together an event against a tight deadline.
I think this garden needs relaunching, this house and garden. So if we could get in place a sculpture exhibition that actually drew people in both from the art world and obviously the gardeners would come as well, then I think that would drive a whole new energy into who is going to come here and a reason for them coming here. And I actually think it would give a new impetus to everything. And
When?
For July, something
That's
there.
only a few weeks away, Ruth.
It's only a few weeks away, but I think it's absolutely possible to do. Don't panic about it. It will be fine. It'll be fine.
That's everything is so difficult.
Challenging them to hold a free sculpture exhibition and garden party before the season's finished could prove that events are the best way to pull people in.
Abstract. Oh, she's a modern innovator.
With only 4 weeks to go, the Robbs crack on with finding local sculptors to exhibit their work in the garden.
All right, can you go back and Google another one? You clicked.
It's terrible.
But Mary-Anne has reservations.
I wouldn't want too many sculptures taking the garden over, and I certainly don't want modern blobs. But I would love to have wonderful sculptures of naked men and mermaids diving into the pond and things like that. I think it would be wonderful.
With a week to go, the chosen sculptors arrive to position their work.
You were the chap that had the cat.
Oh, no, it was an elephant, perhaps. Hello, how are you? I'm Tom.
First up is Tom Clark.
Yes.
What's this one called?
He's called Truly Scrumptious.
Great.
This is the Green Night Garden, and everything in here is white.
I think something in amongst the plants there could work. I mean, especially with that nice...
How about a wonderful snail?
Snail? I mean, you've got to make so... Well...
Lovely snail. I adore snails. Or, and it would look absolutely amazing, a tortoise. A mouse or a rat.
Yeah, quite.
Or a cat.
A cat, yeah, something.
Fat cat. Sorry to have kept you waiting.
Oh, no, you haven't. That's
I'm
fine.
Mary-Anne Robb.
Yes, how do you do? Felicia Fletcher.
Yes, you got the name of a flower. Alastair, my husband, adored your chairs. I thought that they were upside down rhinoceros' horns.
Yes,
is that where you got the inspiration from?
Well, no, but they do look like that, don't
yes. Come along this way, Ian, if you can squeeze through.
Mary-Anne seems to have overcome her prejudice against modern sculpture.
What's the shape?
This is a bird rising on the air.
She even has the perfect spot for Ian Marlowe's stainless steel work.
And the great thing with stainless steel is that it picks up the colours that surround it, and it changes as the light changes.
Well, I think it looks very fine there. I think you've got a prime position. So all in all, it was a productive afternoon, I think.
It's very good that you actually like some of the things.
Yes, because I know I'm extremely difficult. Ruth said I was a very difficult woman.
Well, takes one to know one, doesn't it?
Oh.
It's the day of the sculpture exhibition. Time to see whether a calendar of events can attract new visitors to the garden. Invitations have been sent out, and judging by the number of replies, this event looks likely to attract hundreds of guests.
They were in a real state about the preparations, and it's going to be very interesting to see how they cope with the numbers who are expected. As for what they've done for the house and whether they've made any preparations for their departure from this mortal coil, I doubt it very much. I don't think Mary-Anne and Alastair have listened to a single word I've said, and I think they'll just plod along in their own sweet, eccentric fashion.
Mary-Anne has chosen to exhibit work from 7 different local sculptors. The pieces displayed are all for sale, with prices ranging from £400 to nearly £8,000.
Hello, Mary-Anne.
Hello, Ruth.
Beautiful day, and the garden is just looking divine.
Thank you.
How do you feel, generally speaking, about the sculpture in the garden? I mean, are you pleased with the concept?
Yes, I am. I'm very pleased. I'm much more pleased than I thought I would be, because it hasn't cluttered the garden up.
Are you okay for the party?
Absolutely. Yes, indeed.
You're on
We're
it.
all sort of ready.
Good.
With just a few hours left before hundreds of invited guests arrive, there's a lot to prepare. Ruth lends a hand.
I thought I had enough, and I'm really worried that I haven't got enough.
Oh, no, it'll be fine. It'll be fine.
The garden party is a chance for Cothway to impress a wider audience and generate some much-needed publicity.
This is very time-consuming.
But with sandwiches, cakes and cream teas on the menu, Mary-Anne is out of her comfort zone.
There's got to be an easier
Lunch
way
back.
of doing it.
We're aiming for something like 150 whole sandwiches.
Am I meant to cut the sandwiches in quarters or in...
Yes, absolutely in quarters.
Like that?
The garden party is due to start at 2 p.m. and things are far from ready.
What's the time?
10 to 12. Where's? Can you help me? Quick.
There's a danger that without enough staff to help, the tea won't be ready for the guests.
It's 1 o'clock and Mary-Anne's, I have to say, just running around like a headless chicken. And I don't know where Alastair is, and there aren't enough people to help.
Will the Robbs' inadequate tea room facilities and lack of preparation turn the event into a PR disaster?
Mary-Anne! I'm not joking, that tea is going to be gone within 50 people.
God. 1 cake per person.
It's the day of Cothway Manor's free sculpture exhibition and garden party. After a last-minute scramble, the food is ready. The event is underway, and the guests are enjoying the gardens and the sculptures. So far, Mary-Anne has resisted the notion of making her gardens more commercial.
Have a lovely afternoon.
But businesswoman Ruth Watson is hoping today will prove that a calendar of events can bring more visitors to the gardens and give them a reason to return.
And parlours for to seek a stranger strands, to fair and always...
Instead of their daily average of 15 visitors, the Robbs are expecting hundreds of guests, including the local tourist board. Mary-Anne has always been convinced that people come to see the gardens, not for the food or an experience gastronomique. But after a brief look at the sculptures, most of the visitors are heading straight for the free cakes and sandwiches. The cracks in the organisation are starting to show.
Well, at least these buckets are looking at the garden, not eating the sodding tea. Mary-Anne! Mary-Anne! Need you. Right, no, everyone's pouring in, which is lovely. A lot of people are just doing a very short circuit of the garden in order to get to the free tea, when they're already coming back for more.
Yeah.
I'm not joking, that tea is going to be gone within 50 people.
God. Should I go for a bit? I was worried because the last time I was there was nobody there.
Oh, there are people there, believe me.
Mary-Anne takes control and drafts in the whole team to help serve the guests. Assistant Natalie, daughter Arabella, granddaughters Daisy and Emily, tour guide Avril, Chemick the gardener, and Ruth.
This is not quite as elegant presentation doing this as I had anticipated, but...
No, 1 cake per person and take some sandwiches. I'm sorry, otherwise we'll run out. There we are.
You see, that's what I love about Mary-Anne. She's even ruder than I am.
Food rationing in hand, the next problem is a paper plate shortage.
Paper plates are required.
Paper plates.
Urgently, don't get distracted. Do not get distracted.
No, all right.
Straight there, straight back.
Have you had any tea all
Yes,
of you?
thank you. Yes.
And some strawberries?
Yes, indeed.
I've got to go. I've been told to go and get some more plates.
Mary-Anne! All right, I'm going, Ruth.
Today's free event is all about promoting Cothway's charms. But with this many visitors on an ordinary day, they could have made £900 on food alone.
What I wanted to ask you about was, you know, when we had all the conversation about people coming to gardens, and we have said about how important teas are.
Yes.
Now, I do have to caveat to say that, yes, this is a free tea, but can you just see how desperate the Brits are for a bit of food and...
I know we only do scones. Yes.
Some of these people, I'm not joking, I saw them come in and within 10 minutes they were around here. You know, sod the bloody flowers. It's like giving me tea and me free bit of cake. So it's just something to bear in mind.
But with everyone on teas, there's no one left to sell plants across the far side of the garden.
I wonder where they're paying.
Yes, so do I. They probably think all the plants are free as well, Mary-Anne.
Right, I am coming to take a little money if you want the plants.
Oh, no, we've paid. We've paid
Oh, you
the good
paid!
gentleman there.
He's there. I do apologise. I hadn't seen him over there.
Not at all.
But it's been lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for
Really,
coming.
really
Have you been here before or
No.
not? That's just terrible.
I know.
Are you the sort of person who sees lots of other people?
We get a lot of visitors in Taunton.
Do you?
Yes.
Yes.
And so we will certainly send them to you.
Alastair, are you on plants?
No, I'm not.
Darling,
You are.
Okay. Collecting money. Please, if I give you the bum bag, put it round you, hold it round there.
Say do something, you malign me. I've been doing...
Can I put these in a bag for you?
I think we haven't quite finished.
Oh, right. I'm more... Oh, for God's sake, hold that. I'll be back with a seat for you to sit on.
I think it's all going very well.
The garden party continues with a swing. The visitors seem impressed by what Cothway has to offer and will be encouraged both to visit again and to spread the word.
It's been absolutely fascinating, a revelation to me. This garden is fantastic. And then coming across the sculptures as well.
Yes.
Yeah, that was really nice.
It's absolutely charming. But of course it took us a little while to find it. It is tucked away. But there we are. Perhaps the good things are to be found gently.
Lots of interesting things going on, and that's great because if you want people to come here, have lots of interesting things happening. It is unique.
With more events like this in their calendar, the Robbs should soon be able to get their business on track. All that remains is for Ruth to have one final word with Alastair and Mary-Anne.
I want to say thank you very much for having me here. This is the most stunning place, I have to say. It gets more beautiful every time I come. And I think you've got a lot of potential customers out there who don't know about you. And I think that you can easily get more people in. Then you actually can afford to budget for staff as well. Then you can have some time off, enjoy it yourself. And I think it can work, I really do.
Oh, Ruth, you're being so nice. I thought you were going to give me such a rocket. We have taken on an awful lot of what you said, and you have been a help. Your ideas about having events, absolutely super. And we are slowly going to do most of what you said.
I want to say something to you out of great affection, which is I think you're utterly incorrigible, the both of you, but I also think you're completely delightful, and I'm very glad the world has you in it. You know, I want to get a notice, you know, in 30 years' time to say Mary-Anne Robb has just quietly passed away in the clematis.
I've already gone before that, I think.
And know that you lived out your days here. You are this place. There's no doubt about it. You've made it what it is. You love doing it. And, you know, I think bloody good luck to you.